Unleash the power of purpose with impactful business voices, hosted by Baki and Anita Larsen. Each week, you'll be inspired by stories from companies that are making a real difference in the world, and you'll learn practical tips on how to grow your business with an impact.
Happy Tuesday and welcome back if you listened to us before. And if you haven't, then thank you. Well, thanks for being here and thank you for listening to our Impactful Business Voices podcast. Every week, we talk to a business owner that makes an impact in the world, an impact in their communities, or in the lives of their clients and the people around them. So we're here to find out what drives them, how did they get to where they are, and we hope that it inspires you to make an impact as a business owner in your own business as well. So we are your hosts. I'm Anita Larsen.
And hello, everybody. I'm Baki, and welcome to another awesome week. Today, we are joined by Nicole Majik, and she is known as the Golden Brain Strategist. Interesting name. You're going to know a little bit more about that as we go. So her unique blend of science and metaphysics, it crafts pathways to personal empowerment and a transformative way towards success. So she's here with us today to help us explore the barriers that keep us from our next leap forward and to really share how we can overcome them. She's really about what's holding you back to get to your next. So Nicole, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, both of you.
Welcome. We're excited to have you. I'm excited, and I mentioned to you before we came online, I'm excited to learn more about what you do. So thanks for taking the time. I want to start out just see if you could just basically share your journey. Like, how did you get to where you are? What was kind of the critical moment that got you started down this path? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think there were maybe a few critical moments that helped propel. So little springboards here and there. Mm-hmm. They may have seemed like setbacks, but they ended up being springboards where I used to be a chemist for over 16 years. And I ended up having a near-death experience in 2006. And that's a whole big story. So I don't know if we want to get into all of that just yet. But I had a near-death experience that changed everything. Before the near-death experience, I was suffering from postpartum depression that really spiraled into a much deeper depression. And I didn't even know it. Didn't recognize it, nothing. And I became very obsessed with death and dying and fantasizing about dying. But when I had the near-death experience, it wiped all of that away. Everything changed. My intuition was amplified beyond belief, and it shifted everything in my life from that point forward. A few years later, I ended up with mercury poisoning as well, and I almost died from that. So that was a pivotal point where I had to really trust my intuition, and because the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me for over a year and a half with all kinds of testing, with all different things that were happening. So that really propelled me forward, but after tearing everything down, because I could barely move, I could barely talk, I could barely walk. I definitely couldn't drive, and I definitely couldn't work for periods of time. So that made me realize that if I didn't figure out what was going on in my body, no one else was going to, and I was going to die. So I did intuitively figure out that I had mercury poisoning, and the doctor laughed at me when I asked him to test me for it. But then realized, oh, well, these are alarming levels, and you need to go see a specialist. And he didn't really even know what to do at that point. So I found a specialist that helped me get on chelation therapy. Also identified that I probably had a genetic mutation that wasn't allowing me to process the heavy metals, which was exacerbating the problem. Mm. So even a lot of things that were healthy because of that genetic mutation were actually also working towards killing me. So it was just this whole thing that mushroomed out, and moving through that, I ended up starting my own business back in 2008. So after the near-death experience, I started my own business in 2008. I left chemistry in 2013, and here I am.
That's quite a story. Wow.
It's a path and a half, and the magic occurred.
It
Perfect for your name, huh?
it's definitely a very magical journey all the way
It is.
through. I mean, that's just like a little, couple grains of sand to kind of
Mhm.
in. But it's been very interesting how everything has unfolded, and the visions that came after the near-death experience. There are still things that are unfolding from way back then.
I do feel like so often that we go through something traumatic, it's what propels us to where we're supposed to be in life, right?
Absolutely,
Sometimes
because
it's
a
what
lot
it
of
takes.
times, right. When people hear my story, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you," and I can look at it and say, "No, it's a really great thing that happens
Mhm.
because all of the things that I had to overcome, all of the things that I had to really deep dive inwardly to then create something outwardly, I wouldn't be here. I probably wouldn't even be alive." So,
As I always say to everybody in my life, every day, literally, it comes out so many. Everything in life happens for a reason.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
people you talk to, the reason you go drive there, the people, everything. So I am such a believer in that. And I do believe hardcore because I've seen it so many times, like yourself. Businesses are developed because of things that we go through, and
Mhm.
we go through we have a problem, we find a solution. You did it to yourself, you did it to others, and look where you are today. You are helping, making an impact in the world. Look, Nicole, for those that we've got lots of listeners that don't know who you are and what you do. How would you describe what you do and the impact that you're making on the lives of your clients and the people that you touch?
ooh, that's a great question. I I typically work with a lot of business owners, team leaders, and holistic service specialists. The people who are really ready for rapid growth. They've done a lot of work on themselves, and they're still kind of hitting that wall a little bit on going deeper. They feel they're a little bit stuck. They can't seem to shake loose from that stuckness, and they're ready to move forward and commit to themselves. So I help them define what they really want and then align their life with that desire and then create the action plan to succeed in attaining that desire. And all along the way, we're erasing limiting beliefs that have been sabotaging them reaching that point. So we create a space where those limiting beliefs are no longer an issue and people can move forward.
Yeah. And people don't realize in life. I think when we had more time to really realize, when the pandemic happened and everybody sat home for a few months, I think that was one of the times that it triggered to say, oh my God, I need to take time to take care of myself.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? Like in the last few years, more people are now being more aware. They're like, oh, I need to take that time away of my
Mhm.
business and because
To find the balance.
yeah, because we live with limiting belief. I mean, we have beliefs everywhere. They come from everywhere, from friends, from family, from TV, from wherever you get them. And we have to be able to understand that we have to have that confidence in ourselves to not allow the world to remove us from what we want to do every day.
Yeah. And when COVID came about and everybody was isolated, what were the things that were happening? We were forced to sit with ourselves,
Mhm.
right? So a lot of people, they get out there, they're busy, busy, busy because they don't want to sit with themselves. We had to face fears, right? Because people had a lot of fears that were rising up, all kinds of fears, and those all stem from limiting beliefs. And then there was that shift that happened in many people that they were like, okay, I'm ready to be done with this. And now they've sat with themselves for so long, and they've sat with the fears and also recognizing that, okay, I don't have to be this fearful.
Mm-hmm.
And in people coming together in different ways, even online and all of that, people were finding new ways to find the support that they were needing and how to be a support to other people. So I think that it created a rise in a lot of different levels of awareness for many different people. And that's what really helped.
Yeah, I think a lot of shift in priorities for people during that time. They're like,
Yes.
this is not who I have to be. I can be this person. I need to focus on what's truly important to me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, life is short. That's
Yeah.
a big thing that's recognized is
Exactly.
life is short and you don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. So, from what you said in terms of how you help people, what do you do? Well, now from what I read up on you, since we haven't met until just now, I'm just really curious to know how you work and how does the science and the metaphysics part of what you do blend together, and how does that play a role in your work? Can you talk a little bit about how do you work?
Yeah. So this is a tricky thing to articulate. So I'm going to use some of my my clients' words because
Right.
it's hard for me to say exactly what I do because I typically work in the torsion field of quantum physics because I have been intuitive all my life. I've seen energy, auras, and spirits. And then with the near-death experience, everything was amplified. So my intuition has just been, I mean, people get frustrated with me because they're like, how are you always right? And I'm like, well, I'm not always right. So I just say I'm 99.97% right. But my clients tend to say that I'll hold this space in a really loving, energetic, healing space that's non-judgmental, so that people can get in very vulnerable spaces within themselves to shift, grow, and heal, and they're safe, right? Because there's three things that everybody needs in order to feel fulfilled in their life, and they really need to feel safe and secure. So I create these spaces and I help them get into those places of everybody wants to feel safe and secure. If you don't feel safe and secure, you go into survival mode. And you can't be in growth mode if you're in survival mode. So if you don't trust who you're working with,
True.
you are not going to be able to grow and heal and get into that space. So when you do feel safe and secure, you're confident and you're courageous. So you're able to shift. The other thing is everybody wants approval. There's a desire to belong, to be respected, to be loved. And if you don't feel connected to other people, you'll just put walls up. You'll feel confused about how to behave around others. You start distrusting others. And when you do that, you tend to isolate yourself. But when you do feel loved and respected as well, you feel connected and you're able to be vulnerable. And you've got to be able to get into that vulnerable space in order to become fearlessly authentic. And you can get into being fearlessly authentic. Why? Because you are not afraid of being judged. So by me holding a non-judgmental space, it allows people to shift into a place where they don't fear being judged because of the work that gets done. When you know yourself and you understand who you are at a deep level, you understand everybody else around you. And that's how judgment or fear of judgment gets dissolved. And then the third thing is everybody wants to feel empowered. If you don't feel empowered, what are you going to do? You're going to try to control everything. So there are the control freaks out there. You don't feel empowered about something. You don't feel secure in yourself in something. So you start thinking, well, if I can't gain that, I'm going to just try to control it. And it's because you feel small and insignificant in some area of your life. But when you feel empowered, you begin to trust yourself. And you not only make decisions that are good for you, but everyone around you. So you start empowering everybody else around you, whether it's your family unit, a workplace, people in the workplace, or any other group that you belong to. So when that happens, guess what? Scarcity mindset sloughs off, and then you bring all this stuff into alignment and balance. So you gain that alignment by dismantling limiting beliefs. So that's how I work with people, is really creating that stuff and also bringing that intuitive space in. Because guess what? People can't lie to me.
That's a great skill to have.
I'll know if you're lying. I'll call you out on it. So it's all in love and support. because you have to be in that place of being loved and supported and no judgment. Because let me tell you, there's nothing I haven't heard.
But Nicole, you know, in life, in our business as well, and in yours, it's so awesome to hear. We have to be authentic, direct, straight to the point. I mean, my success didn't come from me being, oh, okay, no problem.
Fluff.
No,
No.
that did not happen. You know, I did have fluff from people that they're not in my life. I didn't, fluff does not work on me. You know, I needed real change. So I needed people that were just authentic and just transparent. I call it, don't play the violin, play the guitar. Just tell me the truth so that I can move forward. And that's what we do with our clients too. It's the best part of our day, I think. So I love the fact that you do it, because that is where we change. And something that you said earlier, you know, when we learn from where we are to feeling more empowered and feeling more strong and head up when we go out, it is contagious. You know, you smile. Like this morning, I was driving and some guy beside me, he was not having a very good morning. And, you know, I got teenagers. So, I mean, it's the same morning for me, you know, full of lots of things that need. And he was in a bad mood. And he gave it to me. But I just smiled back. And okay, he didn't smile. But whatever that's going to take at the end of the day, he has to, you know, everybody has their own work that they need to do, right? But it's contagious what you do. Because once you help somebody weak become strong, then they can go and make more of an impact to others. Because you can't help anybody else unless you're good. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Right? And that, I'm so glad you said that, Nancy, because it really is contagious. And it's contagious in a way where I actually had a client call me this morning saying, you're not going to believe what just happened, and told me a story about the ripple effect, because she's like, you said this way back when I started doing this work, that the work that I was doing was going to affect people in my family, and it was going to ripple effect, and they were going to start to shift, because that's what you see when you start to shift. Everybody around you starts to shift as well, and they'll shift in their own way, in their own space, in their own time. But as you do the work, you are creating a different reality for yourself. And whoever is involved in that reality is also going to feel that shift. So they're either going to shift with you or they're going to shift away from you, depending on what they choose. And that's their free will. So with this, profound things have happened in this person's family where, I mean, people that were really stuck in victim modes, victim, villain, hero mode, that whole triangle, completely changing. And it was initiated because one person started doing the work, and it just started ripple affecting out. And it's just an amazing thing to watch, to hear about, and to experience, because everything that I teach, I've experienced myself, because I had to figure it out myself. So I help people get there faster, right? I mean, that's our whole point, Nancy. When we do this work, we want to help people get there faster than what we did, because guess what? When you stumble and fall and you stumble and fall and you stumble and fall, and then you find, oh, I'm supposed to go this way. Then you can, and to tell somebody, oh, don't do this, do this.
Learn from our mistakes.
Yeah. I know you've got a lot of transformative stories. I know you just gave us one. Can you think of another one, maybe on the business side, or even if it's personal, but something that like you really help that person's belief just change significantly and really have a huge positive impact, again, whether it was on their business or in their personal life? Can you give us another nice story?
Yeah, on the business side, I've got a couple on the business side, because I started off with my own team in chemistry, where the company was growing so rapidly, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible. When I came into the company, my department was 15 people. When I left, there were over 75 people just in that department. Wow. And my group was like this central hub for 8 different departments in pharmaceutical development. So I saw that our systems were not going to be working on that scale up that fast. So I had to devise a plan to make sure that everything was going to run smoothly. People could get their time off, because I was seeing burnout happening left and right. Higher demands were set on people. ridiculous expectations and really tight and almost impossible deadlines. So it turned into a lot of burnout and with a lot of people. What I did was I sat down and I looked at my team. I wrote down what I saw, what their subject matter expertise was, and then I wrote down what their potential was, what I saw their potential was. And then I told them what I was going to do and sit down with each and every one of them so they didn't feel like they were being, in trouble with all of a sudden I have this one-on-one meeting with Nicole.
Right.
So I met with every single one of them and got their take on what did they want? What were their desires? What did they want in their personal life and their growth and development at work? And then I went over what they wanted, and then I showed them what I saw their potential was. And I started closing gaps in that area, being very in a conscious leadership space, because there were things that were within them that they were saying, oh, you think that I can do that? I didn't think that that was possible for me to learn that or go in that space or go that route. And so we'd shift into a more authentic conversation based on, oh, I'm removing these limitations. Okay. In my mind. And so I devised a year-long plan to make sure everybody was going to be able to take their time off and not have that dread coming back, thinking all this piles of work was going to be on their desk and all their responsibility. So they hated coming back. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
I like to go on vacation and I like to enjoy my vacation. And that's what I wanted for my team. So I made sure there was so much overlap with that everybody was still having important roles, but there were also other people that people could go to and they could share that responsibility. So it empowered everybody to work together in very, very much unison. And that team all the people there ended up becoming associate directors, and, senior scientists for other groups. And it's a beautiful thing. Another success story I could say for teams, because if we're dealing with business, you've got to be able to communicate and deal as a team. And I worked with a team of 4 that their limiting beliefs were triggering each other's limiting beliefs left and right and center, upside down and sideways. And when I identified all the pieces and started working with each individual, I worked with the individuals and then I worked with the group as well. And what I found was in doing that work with them, all of them were shifting, and I was making sure they were all shifting in unison. Like it's kind of like putting the lug nuts on a wheel. You don't just lock down on one. You've got to tweak a little bit all the way around until all of them are nice and tight. And that's what happened. Their ability to receive, their ability to communicate, their ability to say how they felt authentically without getting offended with each other, everything shifted and their business amplified, and they got very clear and concise on where they wanted to go. And they did it together. That was beautiful.
Yeah, it's so hard to work in like team cultures if it started going the wrong way, and to get it back on track, it can be very difficult to influence the whole, almost like a hive mindset at that point, right?
Yeah, and especially when there's in instances where they're family businesses, so you have family working together.
It's difficult, but once they recognize it and they know it has to be work, then oh my Lord, then it's going to be beautiful. And I always say, businesses and people, we don't know what we don't know, right? So when that expert comes in and says, hey, you could do things different so that your desire can act, or what you want actually can happen. Oh, how do I do it? I mean, it's just like how, going back to when we were born, we didn't know the ABC. Somebody taught it to us, and then life starts from there. And that's in business as well. So
yeah, it's kind of like sometimes people are putting on teams that I've worked with in the past, they're putting people who are very curt as relationship managers. No.
Yeah.
You need somebody who has a lot of emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
And not saying that somebody who is very, blunt can't do that. They can, but they might have to learn that. So you have to figure out where they might be perfect for that role and where they're not when it comes to what your clients are, who your clients are, and how you deal with your clients.
Right.
Because if you're turning people away because somebody is just kind of very cut and dry and they need a little massaging, well, you're going to have a problem.
Absolutely.
So I find it so interesting, Nicole, because you started talking about, reading the energies and the auras and how intuitive you are. And I know you've been on shows like Beyond the Unknown. And then the examples you're giving now is very much, okay, working with the team culture and leadership. And how do you kind of bridge that gap between, like, I guess, mainstream perception and then the metaphysical aspects of what you do?
All right, I'll tell a fun story. So
Okay.
here's kind of this is a really fun story for me to tell because I kept a lot of what I did, like the auras that I could see, to myself for the most part while I worked in chemistry. And then I did a fundraiser, so I brought it out and I was like, hey, forget this. I'm just gonna like bring it out here. Let's see how this goes. But so people kind of got a little weird when they realized that I can see the energies around you.
Right.
But it's okay because it doesn't change who I am. I mean, I'm the same person. I see things and it actually helps me to understand you so that I can help you a lot more. And this funny story was my team was also had a counterpart team. So we did the same thing. We just worked on different projects. So our two teams, so me and the other team leader, we shared an office together. We would get our teams together and we wanted them to grow and develop so that they could present and articulate data and, be the leaders that they did become. And I just remember one day sitting there, and I like to sit where I can see everybody because I like to watch the energies. And I was watching the interaction between one of my employees and one of my counterparts' employees. And it looked like a nice, friendly interaction. So one was presenting, the other was asking a question, and it was a valid question. It was a good question. It was a great answer. Yet something was happening where I was seeing this thought form formulate and prepare itself. And then it flew at the other person. And I was like, ooh, that is not nice. Even though it looks like everything is being nice and we're being friendly, there was something else going on there. And I was like, oh, I'm going to find out what that is. So when we went back to the office, I turned to the other team leader and asked, hey, what's going on between these two people? And the reply was, oh, did she say something?
Oh,
Said, oh,
That's not telling at
no,
all.
no, right? I said, no, she didn't say anything, but there's something going on, and I think that you should tell me. And I get this like look because they're trying to figure out how does she know? And we sat there staring at each other for a good minute, maybe even a minute and a half, which feels like eternity. And I said, okay, well, how about we play this game if we're going to be playing some games? I'll tell you what I think happened, and then you can tell me when I'm right. And so I said this whole thing. I said, this is what I feel like happened, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this, that, and the other thing. And I just laid out a bunch of things. And I don't want to be specific because of, people.
Of course.
And the other team leader looked at me and said, oh, she definitely said something. I said, okay, so you're telling me I'm right. And I got an answer of, after, some more staring, yeah. And then it was confirmed what I had said. And then the statement back to me was, I don't know how you know what you know, but you're an effing freak. And I said, oh, well, great. If that makes me a freak, then I love my freakish nature.
Listen, you have a gift that God gave you, and you use it.
Yes.
Embrace it.
And
Yeah.
you embrace it, you love it, you used it
It
for
was kind
yourself.
of in an admirable way, because that person also had said, we had the same boss. And one day it was, I'm going to let you talk because you seem to know what to say to people so that they actually understand and don't misinterpret what you mean. And everybody thinks I'm a jerk.
Yeah. So I'm so curious, Nicole, like how does that work when you read people's energy and the aura? Like that's always fascinated me, and I never met anybody that actually does it. So can you just share, like, how does that actually work for you? How does it happen?
Okay, so it's an automatic thing that I see it, I feel it, and I also know it, and I see different levels of it. So I see the colors, I see shapes, I see like snow stuff, static. I see static energy, different things, and they all mean different things. And I had to learn and figure it out. So I was a big people watcher growing up and watching people's interactions. And over time, it solidified what meant what. And when somebody was lying, and when I knew somebody was lying, I could see how their energy shifted than when they were telling the truth. So I started just creating this internal file cabinet of information. So when I see certain things, and even some things can be very specific to certain people, like, for example, my second son, if he were to lie, he would get this cloud that would cover his face like he was hiding himself. And it would go dark. And it would almost go like, it felt like it would go down, like a depressive energy, because he was suppressing things, right? Trying to cover up. And then my other son, he would get very, like, how do I put it? Zombie-like, almost just like clear. Like there was no emotion there. It was very stoic. And then some people just have colors that flare off, or certain things that they do. And that's how I got to know, I'd say, well, we can try that again. You can try to tell me what's going on. You can tell me again so that you can tell me the truth. And they'd get so mad. So it's just something that it happens. And I had to learn to dim it down, because it looks like a laser light show that happens all the time.
Oh, okay.
And also these feelings that come flying off of people. So I've learned to kind of create my own dimmer switch, but it doesn't completely shut off. So I can dim it down real good and kind of ignore a lot of things, which is how I really tend to deal with people, is I dim it all the way down unless there's something that kind of presents itself, or when somebody comes to me and wants a reading, then I've got the permission, it's lights on, let's go.
So do you have to be like near people to feel it, or no? You just said earlier when we chat earlier, you can do like virtual, and you can see people's
biophotons are biophotons.
And anybody can do anybody can do anything they really want to, right? Like if they really, really want to change their lives, do it, right? I always say, don't have a good day, make your day great, because it's in your hands. What are you going to do with it, right?
Exactly.
What are you going to decide to do today, right? Of course, we're going to need help in certain things with people with more experience, more wisdom, But look, we've got an audience here that may be at crossroads in their lives. What are some practical advice, tips that you can offer somebody who feels stuck or uncertain with something in their life, whether it's in their career, like job-wise, or in their own business, or in their personal growth?
Ooh, great question. Because really take a look at what your values are and where those values are not fully aligning with your life. That's a big thing. That's one of the first steps that I take people in, is when we're defining what you truly want, we're also defining what your values are. And when we define those, and there's a very particular way to define them and uncover the gaps that you have, and then switch out of them. So there's a very strategic process that makes it easy. And that's the alchemy of transformation. And when you look at those things and you look at the things in what you're lacking, for example, people are usually concerned with health, love, and money. Because even if it's business and career, it has to do with, health, love, money. Yeah. So if you look at those things, and especially in the love area, a lot of people want to find their ideal mate. And they're not looking at things from the perspective of, are you that ideal mate? So really honing in on what that means and putting your checklist together. That's the thing is, once you have an actual real checklist, and I do things at that intuitive and vibrational rate. So everything's vibration, frequency, right? We're talking Tesla here. And when you're looking at things in terms of vibration and frequency and energy, you want to put that checklist together with a very specific vibration and frequency and energy that matches you and who you are and what you're looking for. And if there's a gap there's some kind of belief that's holding you back from attaining that. So you have to bring that out in yourself before you go find that in somebody else and attract that in, because you're going to keep attracting the things that are going to tweak your beliefs and bring your negative beliefs out until you change those beliefs. So your limiting beliefs are the superfood for your fears. If you have a fear in a relationship and you're fearing being rejected or whatever, you are going to create being rejected because you fear it.
I like that. It's your superfood. It's so it is the superfood of your life. If you don't work on it now, who's going to do it for you? Yeah, who's going to do it for you? Right? So that's
no one. It doesn't come externally. It comes internally. And when you're ready, you're ready. And when you're not, you're not. And I say that all the time, because when you're ready, you are ready. There's not this playing around. Yeah, I'm ready. And then you're like, not really. When you're ready, you're freaking ready.
Yeah. So
and it starts with you, right?
Exactly.
You have to work on you before you bring anything or anybody else then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not willing to look at yourself, don't call me.
If you don't want to spend time with yourself, then who else would want to spend time with you? Sit down and figure out who you want to be, that you want to spend time with and be the priority in your own life.
Exactly. Go sit with yourself for an entire day without a phone, without a TV, without any external stimuli. And what comes up in your head? Can you stand it?
And I think the most important as well is, we all say we want this, we want that. How bad do you really want it? How bad do you want it is how bad you're going to, 1, recognize the problem, 2, take the time to actually do something about it, and 3, not just learn about it, but actually implement it to the rest of your life so that you
make it happen.
Make it happen and help others.
Yeah. And that's something where, okay, I just have to laugh, because a lot of people are in that space where, yeah, I want it. And then you say, okay, well, what are you committed to? Will you do whatever it takes? Yeah, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And then you start with just breaking one little thing down. And it's like, oh my God, this is so much work. I don't want to do this anymore. You're not committed. If you're not committed to yourself, forget it. Forget it.
that's in personal and in business, my friend. It
Yep.
is, and I know you
Mhm.
recognize that. We say that every day, and that's why I think at the end, it's how bad do you want it? Is how bad
Yeah.
you're gonna take the time to put it into your life, get better. There are so many possibilities for change, but again, repeating, who's gonna do it? It's you have to be that number one person
Yeah.
to
It's
Yes.
not
start.
going to fall in your lap.
No, nothing
Definitely
happens
not.
until you take action, and your
Right.
beliefs are what directs your thoughts and your actions. So if you're not being able to take action somewhere, you've got a belief in there that's holding you back, and you need to get rid of it. That's
Mhm.
it. If you
Yeah.
want to overcome it, then you just need to get rid of it. And a lot of people say easier said than done. It's like, no, it's actually pretty freaking easy.
Yeah. It is when you understand it. Nicole, this has been a wonderful time with you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
My
We're
pleasure.
just gonna thank you. We're gonna just put you backstage for a few minutes. We're gonna talk about a few takeaways about today, and we're gonna come back and join you in a minute.
Thank you
Perfect.
so much, Nicole.
Thank you guys for having me. Mwah.
Wow, beautiful,
So
awesome.
interesting. Yeah.
I loved it. I mean, these are things that we already know, right? And especially us with what we do every day. That last point that she brought, it is the most important.
Mhm.
I'd say that's the toughest part of our business and kind of almost any business,
Yeah,
right?
I think
Is
we've all been through it too in some shape or form, right? We all have had those experiences and things we had to overcome to be able to take the next step and move forward with things, right?
100%, 100%. I love the fact that she was talking about the three most important things in life. It's health,
Yes.
love, and money. Everything in our life surrounds that, right? Those are the three main things that people always worry about, right?
I
So
was thinking the other three things. I mean, I thought you were going to say the other three things. I had the safety, security, the need for approval, and empowerment.
yes,
I wrote those three things to me. But yes, I agree what you said. That's always key. But these three things to me are, I think, so relevant to everything we do. I think it speaks a lot to leadership. If you have a leader that is lacking one of those three, whether it's feeling safe in his position, feeling that he's getting the approval he should or recognition he should be getting, and whether he's feeling empowered, is definitely going to impact how he leads and what type of leader that person is. He or
agree.
she, I don't know why I keep saying he. That's not good.
No, agree.
That person is. Because if you don't feel empowered, you're not going to empower anybody else. You're not going to be delegating. You're going to try to take on everything yourself. You're going to be micromanaging. It's just
Yes,
like a snowball. If you don't have those three things well within yourself, it's going to snowball to everybody around you. Just like Nicole said, the ripple effect, right?
yep,
Especially in a workplace, that ripple effect is going to be very apparent.
absolutely. And I think also what's really important is, like she said, you have to trust yourself. When you
Mhm.
trust yourself to make those good decisions around you, then that's where changes actually begin. You have to recognize it, trust yourself, do the work with somebody that has the wisdom to help you, that is not just has the wisdom, but has actually gone through something, and are actually teaching people the right way to do it, right?
And
And being authentic throughout the whole way. Yeah, go for it. Sorry, Nick.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, somebody that's gone through something to what we talked about in the beginning of the show and what Nicole went through, which I know she has so much more she could tell us about her whole journey that we didn't have time to cover today, and I would love to hear the rest of it. But sometimes people have to go through something to propel them into where they're supposed to be. And another thought I had on that is sometimes they're also meant to go through something so they can be there for others and help them go through something in
Yes.
their life, right?
Yes,
So to be able
absolutely.
to make that impact, you have to go through something to make an impact for others that are going through things.
Absolutely. And on an ending note, understand yourself, guys. That is so deeply important for yourself. We all have limiting beliefs, but that awesome word that Nicole said, where's your superfood? What is
Embrace
going to
what
help?
makes you special. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, that was really wonderful, really
Yeah.
wonderful. And at the end, we know it. We all know it. Deep, deep inside, it's now about the recognition and what are we doing about it, right?
Yeah.
Awesome day. Guys, listen, make sure you keep in touch with Anita and myself to learn about what else we have going on with opportunities. You know, we've got lots of opportunities for different things. There's additional information you could learn from us. Don't miss out on our future episodes. You can find this copy of this recording on our YouTube channel at Impactful Business Voices. We ask you to support us. Click the subscribe button so that you get notified for our weekly podcasts.
And we'll be back next Tuesday with another guest. And we have the pleasure of speaking with Jennifer Hudson. She's with Think Beyond Public Relations. I've known her for many years, and she's an amazing strategic communication consultant. She's an advocate, a speaker, a trainer, and so excited to hear her message. She believes that great communication can change the world. And when people and organizations communicate with greater empathy, understanding, and intention, the world's going to be a better place. So you don't want to miss this. Find out how you can impact people with your communication, and join us next week.
And until next week, guys, go make an impact.
Thank you for listening to Impactful Business Voices. Subscribe now and don't miss an episode.